All right. It's live coding. We're back. It's the 8th of November, 2023. Let me unshare screen for just a minute. So if your camera's on, you can say hi. Hey, Martin. Off screen, we got Harsha, Adrian, Nick, and Alex. Hey, man. Um, and we were just talking a little bit before going live today. Plutus PBL has been going for about 8 months. We've had 215 people at last count make. Look at that, man. I thought you were teaching children. You should put a shirt on.
Yeah, I actually did it, and I went to the school and we had a lesson with some kids, and just yesterday or today, the school wrote to me and they want some more. Yeah,
So is that good news?
but the internet is quite slow, and I can't go live. Have to like hide from the.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
good to see you. The updates
thanks,
have been
thanks.
good. It's fun to think about you chasing some kids around and teaching them how to code.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Cardano just today, and the questions we just were discussing just now, I'm not sure just be able to explain with internet because it just falls off from time to time. And like just you explained that there's a like project you can involve blockchain architecture and run it in the browser and have like user experience and change the project so that like it fits the user needs or like the developer needs. And talking about blockchain architecture and templates, yeah, uh, my idea when I was working on this proposal for Fontaine to exactly reduce the time that you are describing. So like, okay, I'm a new developer in Cardano. I want to think about what ETXO model. And then it's a matter of experimentation. It's just many like attempts trying and failing and just, okay, my head hurts. And the idea is to be able to run this quickly, but you don't need to like to address the node and even do this for like to experiment with the model. And the simple using emulator from Helios and test generator, like we built this small tool, and you can actually there write transactions and import them as a module in a front end, and have like transaction building model which works in emulator, so you don't need to connect to blockchain. You just can like predict its behavior and then just play around with the like architecture of the dApp and think about how you can apply it in the context that you are familiar with, like somebody maybe like I don't know where, like, but that's the big question. I'd like to know, where is a good place to find application for blockchain and how to, you know.
I would love to play with that. Yeah, that sounds like a great tool.
I'll share it in Discord.
And like you're saying, it speaks to the need for more tools like that, right? It says as we think about what we could build next or what projects we take on, maybe we start thinking from that perspective of just tools for pedagogy, right? What are some tools that will make it easier to teach these concepts to people?
Yeah, that's one of the points of I think the developer experience working group, and to be able to, yeah.
Cool. Well, so we've been going for a while here, since March of 2023, about 8 months. And so just quick status check here. I'm going to share screen. Here's the homepage. For anybody who's not aware, we run a free education program at plutuspbl.io where anybody can start anytime taking a course that has these modules in it. And by taking this course, you'll learn a bit about how Cardano works. You'll learn how to build transactions, interact with smart contracts, and start to play around with user experience and user front ends. We mint tokens, we mint NFTs, We do a little project that ties it all together, and then we go a little bit deeper. We're not touching mesh in this course after all, because we are in the process of building a unique mesh PBL course with the team. So, excuse me. So more on that soon. And you can also see an on-chain record of how many people have signed up for this course. We crossed the 200 mark since the last time we met, but I'm not convinced that all of those were real. In fact, there were a whole bunch of student tokens minted that were called fake tokens. And it looked like somebody finally got into our system and messed it up a little bit. But that's kind of exciting. This whole course was built to be vulnerable to some different kinds of exploits in the hopes that we would then get to fix those exploits together. So that's actually, if we look down here, we got to fix some bugs at an upcoming live coding. So that's here. It's fixed just enough that this page doesn't break. But that's something we can look at soon. And actually, I put that on the calendar for tomorrow to do some live debugging there, because it's going to point us at some other concepts. But then after tomorrow, November 15th through, we'll do our last live coding of the year on December 21st. Okay. There's nothing in these descriptions yet. Okay, here in the United States, we have a holiday on November 23rd, so I know I won't be able to make it, but if anybody globally wants to get together, feel free to use the space. Okay, but we've got, starting next week, what do we have, 3, 6, 9, we got 11 sessions that are unaccounted for, and we could do whatever we want with these sessions. And that's the question I'd like to bring to everybody today. Governance, we often think about it in terms of how to spend money. I actually don't think that's as interesting as asking how should we spend our time, right? All of us are here together. We are investing, sure, in ourselves, but also I think in each other just by showing up. And that gives us a shared resource, and we got to figure out what to do with it. And so I was hoping that we could spend a little time today looking ahead to these next 7 weeks and talking about this question: how should we spend our time? To do that, I set up just a little Notion board here where we can start a conversation, but I might not even be starting us from the right questions. So if we should ask the question a different way, I hope that people will say so. But just to look at it, our goal is not to change live coding forever. We have some systems that are really good, and especially when we're launching a new cohort of Plutus PBL, we've got some emerging best practices for how to spend time. We've spent a lot of time with the structure of anybody who shows up can share what they're working on or what they're stuck on, and then we decide together in the moment how to spend that time. And maybe we could call that a form of guided onboarding. Right? We have a nice structure, I think, for guided onboarding. But I'm wondering what everybody thinks about maybe spending some time just seasonally for a little while on intentional collaboration. And so I wanted to start there. If we had a good playground yesterday, and Kenrick demonstrated for us some sociocracy practices. And I forget what the word is, but a sense check where we go around the circle, and everybody has a chance just to chime in. And I would love to know, A, is this an okay question to be asking, or would you ask the question differently? And B, if you're happy with this question, what answers do you have? What might you want to collaborate on, or how could you see us shifting temporarily towards that space? So if I can hand it off to the circle here, and one by one, if everybody wants to, you can chime in. How do you feel about this question? And How do you want to collaborate? Who wants to jump in?
I do. No one's raised their hand, I think.
Love counting on you for that.
I first off, I love the idea of the seasonal shift. I'm in the northern hemisphere. I'm in New York State, and that the light changes. We're going through the daylight savings time. Like we've got holidays, and it's a time where I do think just everything else is different, and so it's kind of cool to sort of shift. We wear a coat when we go out, et cetera, et cetera. So I love the idea of intentionally shifting seasonally and then going back to it, so we can kind of you can kind of miss it, but it's a cool time to do something different and to do something fun or juicy or something that you really care about. And I think intentional collaboration makes that sums it up. And then to be selfish in like, what is it that we weren't doing before and that we want to do, and take positive steps towards that. So I can validate the question. Does anybody else have ideas about that?
Piotr, hey.
Hey, hey guys. I just had a thought. Like when I was younger, I was doing a lot of like kayaking and like canoe. Uh, and when there was a winter, we used to do a lot of like strength training when young. The idea was to get you as much built up with muscles as possible. So it wasn't as much as like, oh, we need to be fast. We need to be uh, like um, like prepared for a race, but more like, okay, let's give it all. Like let's put them like let's focus on how much we can do and not the quality. And I think there is something that can be uh, transformed to the way that we can spend our time, and like maybe we not focus so much on like the outcome, but like what can we explore, like which topics we don't know yet. And yeah, just think that this is a way to do this.
I like that, Piotr.
Yeah.
And because it sort of has like this delight, there's like the strength training, which is like getting ready or preparing or consolidating. That's kind of a word that's like come up to me. Like I wrote down consolidating or looping back the Plutus PBL, like taking account and like summarizing at the new year. A lot of times we'll do like a yearly review, and it's just like, oh yeah, like taking good account and like, wow, we did all this, um and then delight, like the things that are like juicy and fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just have fun. Just do whatever you want.
Yeah, do whatever you want. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, because when we started we wanted something and we did all this stuff, but now it might be might be shifted.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea. Yeah.
I see Martin's hand.
Is it like also what we could do practically? Like I would like to compare indexers like what we did before. Maybe take a nice backend query, which is not too simple, not too complex, and then maybe see in different indexers what the result is.
Yeah, like a time to build, to follow these like threads. It's like a, it's also like the cozy cabin times. It's like we're not going to go outside. We're not going to go kayaking. So let's like do some strength training that's very practical. Martin, that's what it's just like, it doesn't have to be like completely way off. It can be something that like really helps, but in other times of the year or in the standard flow and method, periodic, the rhythm of normal life, it's too much to do. It's like one of those projects you're just like, oh, that'd be nice to do. But at this special time, we can say, oh, let's make time to do this intentionally, and kind of take a break from the normal rhythm, and do a flourish, I guess, in music, or the bridge. It's just like, no, well, we were doing that, everybody expected it. Now we do this other fun thing, and then we go back and like consolidate it. 16 bar blues. Yeah. With that in mind, I, I do have a career and a credential in, instructional design and learning management systems. And I I do have love for it. I was washed out with in a certain way, but I love, actually, I'll tell this. This is kind of a juicy story. I was like, Gimbal Labs is cool. James has got a good thing going on, and wow, they've got the education. And I was working with C4C, and you guys were over here, and you picked Canvas as the learning management system, and I was just like, okay, okay, let me. And I went through and I tried, and I was like, I can't do it, man. I just can't do it. It wasn't. And so, I do have some issues with it, with the sort of standard model, but I love the fact that, when Andamio came in, and I was like, oh, we're creating our own thing, and you can get involved with this malleable environment for learning, and possibly, even if we just shifted a fraction to be more, learner centered, more, agency, more, you know towards a better way, then I'm in it. I'm in it. And I just saw the folks over at Singularity Net earlier this morning, with Tevo and Andre and Peter, working with their D-Work PBL, and they're in there working in the code. Tevo's got a Miro board with all this stuff, going out, and it's really, really cool. So an hour and a half that just had, it's just totally delightful to me to be building, on this tool that I've watched sort of grow up, and so that felt really nice. So I could write that down as like really building out a PBL course. As a test case, maybe something that Harsha and I do, maybe it supports this CS50, or other little side quests. That would be really cool. What do we call that? What did I call those? Detours, like a little detour. It's just like, oh yeah, it's wintertime detour.
Training circuit, to use Piotr's metaphor. I like it. Harsha, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking, I was just wondering how many people are here to actually finish this course and do a job, or just get employed, as opposed to how many people want to solve problems, build stuff with other people they like, and things like that. And based on that, how can we frame the PBL course? Would it be the same for all end results, or would it change PBL in a different way if people want different things? So I thought like just discussing PPBL as a whole would be a good idea as well.
And that idea of different different types of learners, different learner outcomes. Yeah, that's good. That's insightful.
Adrian, anything that you'd add?
Sorry, I just was just hearing in the background.
Oh, good. No, thanks for being here. You dropped some great truths on us at Playground yesterday when you jumped in. So just wondering if you have anything to add on collaboration and where you'd like to see Plutus PBL go next.
Seasonal between. First thoughts, should it be seasonally? Shouldn't it be more like a new learner is coming, learn something, and when he's ready, he can help the new learners. So more like a circle that of seasonally would both be.
I like that. Yeah, process.
Yeah, one of the things that really gets me excited is that new cohort of learners. Like we were talking about Fund 11, and even though I'm slightly toasted, not necessarily burnt, but toasted on the funds. But I looked at the Discord. I was like, who's in this Discord now? And they're there like, hey, how do I do the basic things? And I'm still motivated to like jump in and try to like solve the issues there. And I guess that is it. It's like when new cohorts come on, like I just feel that very real, like being a bit lost or being like wanting to sort of support and onboard and educate, like that onboarding education. And it's a two-way street because the way their questions and what they're bringing, now, because before the pandemic, before, Zoom, before like all of that was pretty new, when we started, not necessarily new for us, but new for sort of the world, like that they would work in a decentralized way, work from home. But now there's a whole new cohort and a new framing experience. Yeah.
Have you looked in the chat? There's like this graph. It came later when James was gone yesterday, and this graph is just it's so cool that you now have data about how this decision making and the rules function for making the real decisions.
Oh.
It shows like the wallet distribution. So there's a large amount of small wallets. And then it shows the current voting situation, which has the most power. And there you have the 1 to 5 million have the most power. So if you have a wallet with between 1 and 5 million, you have a lot of power. There's like a council of 177. They decide everything. So
I would feel powerful if I had a wallet of 1 to 5 million. Yeah, that would.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think they have a Discord server somewhere.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
It's called the Council of 177.
There you go.
But it also shows I don't know exactly his name, but I've seen him in already Fund 2. He made this suggestion of quadratic voting, and it looks way more equal.
Yeah.
But that's the question: do you want to go for equal? But at least you now know who decides in this way of thinking.
And is this gonna be available for the next funding round? No.
No.
Okay.
But that might be a cool, like, a detour or a cool, like, intentional side quest to get the Sancho net up and try out some experiments. And that's another way. It's just like a delightful experiment where we, build on our collaborations and like we know each other. That's a value, like being like knowing each other and doing these little detours together is really the fruit of all of this time and attention that we put together. And the beautiful thing is that we're a diverse team. We have diverse skill sets, diverse experiences, and I think that would be really, really cool. And then it would make more of the group dynamic kind of happy instead of the slow sort of fade out. Like it says, okay, here's something new, a new game to play. We could ping all of the folks and just say, hey, yeah, look, for the next 7 weeks until January, until this time, until this set date. And then we can make commitments. It makes it easier in decentralized things. It's not a forever thing. It's just a commitment. That helps me to make those commitments. And especially if it's something that someone is passionate about, and that it's also practical, also delightful. Yeah, it's kind of like an all hands on deck kind of.
We could rethink our whole model, right? There's nothing that says Plutus PBL has to stay this structure with these modules and it's asynchronous like this. We could experiment with saying, hey, sure, there's this archive of things we've done, right? But the way Plutus PBL works in a live sense is there's always this 7-week cycle of every 7 weeks, a bunch of people get together and they try to figure out something.
Yeah.
That might actually be more project-based learning than what we have right now.
Yes.
Right? It might level us up in that direction.
7 weeks seems very on the small side, but if you look at we could go back and look at the data, because like when did we start? It was sometime in the spring. Where is the distribution of people attending, and then we've got all the data. Like when were people most active? When were they changing? When were they doing the things? And then just sort of use that as the de facto thing, and then maybe make the change. It's just like, oh yeah, when a new cohort comes on, and then we commit to the lesson and commit to the time. Like that, I think is foundational to the learning this method, the Andamio, this PBL type of thing. Like commitment is a beautiful thing, and I've never heard it in a learning context before. Yeah, that might be cool. It's very first thing from my experience. Again, the summertime is also a kind of a different time, right? So it's just like, oh yeah, well, it's summer break, or and you do things that are, yeah, like, so that could be another. It's just like, yeah, there's a summer session and it starts in the spring. You kind of do all your onboarding, and then June, July, and August is like your heavy lifting of like going through the course, and then the fall is another sort of transition and consolidation time. And that's what I think we mean by seasonal. Like it can kind of change around, and very human. Like, but I love the idea of a new cohort coming on, and I would love to be there, especially with like a side quest that I found myself sort of in and really liked, but setting up your environment, like getting VS Code going, like figuring out what your machine is and which tools to use,
Yeah.
what's really going on in there, because you can do it without really understanding it. It's just like, oh yeah, I just brute force and figure out until it works. But there is just an infinite, I mean, there's just so much to learn just about the Linux environment, just about the node things, just about Cardano and the blockchain stuff. these things are where I would love to be, like sitting at a station when a new cohort comes on and being like, okay, this is what you're gonna need to know. Like everybody quiet down and let's put on your thinking hats and you don't have to worry because I've been there before and we've got all of this sort of set up for you. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some like canned experiences that we know
Yeah.
are going to be impactful. And so thinking about that, I want to come back to that point in just a second. But Nick, any thoughts you're having as we get into this conversation?
I'm just taking it all in right now. Something that just got brought up is kind of those canned experiences. I know it's the PPBL is definitely the goal is project-based learning, onboarding developers into the ecosystem, but I think there could be an opportunity for like experienced developers. It might be a lot of projects to get up to speed quickly. So if there's a way for, I don't need to know everything, but I have a goal of committing to an open source project. Something I asked initially was like, hey, I do have this experience. It's going to take me a little bit to catch up, but if there's low hanging fruit. So if there was kind of, I've seen in the last couple of weeks talking about, oh, we're going to get to there's this bug or that bug that we want to work on. If we could maybe document and be a little bit more pointed with that, there's definitely strong developers lurking around that could take that out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the magic of collaboration, right? Like you get this superpower of being able to get more done when you start collaborating with people you trust.
Yeah, absolutely. In what Newman was just saying about being there for people and really getting into the nitty gritty of Nix or VS Code, that's also something that more experienced developers could help with right away, even if they're not exactly totally caught up on all the lessons or PPBL. So if there's opportunity where people this is a huge collaboration, but people also are going to be selfish in their own sense of what's going to help them or what are their goals. And I think if I could see, oh, I can hop in right away, I could volunteer to talk to people about VS Code, and then that's a good experience for me. Having that from the onset instead of everyone needing to volunteer themselves and really get involved, I think that could help. Right, like we're like maybe it's not exactly what this course is for, but if there was, I'm just going to use the word a bounty, we need, we have a bounty for someone just to talk about what VS Code, make a video about what VS Code is and how you can use it, little things like that, where there's professional benefits to doing something like that, but also you're getting involved right away, and not getting overwhelmed with, 30 modules, and feeling like you have to do that before you can contribute.
Yeah, I agree. And that's so talking about what we might collaborate on, that's really getting us into the juice of this. So Plutus PBL has been bootstrapped by a relatively small group of people. And if you've been through the course, you know that you hear Sebastian's voice. At the very end of the course, you hear Augustine's voice. You hear Jonty's voice in there for a little while, but you hear a whole lot of my voice. And that's got to change. And the reason I was willing to do that is I know that exit velocity is a hard thing. I know that getting to the point of momentum is a hard thing. And I was committed enough to this to try to make sure that the thing initially existed. But it's never been my goal to own this thing, just to get it to the point where we can share it a little bit more. And the onboarding parts of the course, Nick, I agree with you completely, right? Like there are some capable devs who don't need to go through all of that. And so what we've now done is we've built software that distinguishes between learners and contributors. Learners can go through that onboarding process to get to the point of contributing, but capable contributors, they should have an entry point for just jumping in and getting started. So now we have software that does that. We're going to start rolling that out and we can look at it together as we start investigating some of these questions. But still, why would somebody want to contribute? There's a handful of people. We're all finding each other who contribute because it feels good. Maybe there's a promise of future opportunity, that kind of thing. But what we haven't yet had is any sort of funding to start to sustain these processes. We've tried to use Catalyst for that over and over again. We've written proposals to try to fund a student treasury. It doesn't go over, right? It's not the end of the world. Voters just don't have enough imagination to think about actually these new models, right? The proposals that get through are the ones that people understand. Okay. And so here we are trying some new things. But what we do have, I mentioned this before we went live, Gimbal Pool has a delegation from Cardano Foundation. And that's going to result in a couple of thousand data that we can use for this work. It's not enough to sustain the full-time team that maybe we will eventually have, but it is enough to get started and to run some proofs of concept. And I'm really hoping that as we start to show that, just even symbolically, that incentive, I know personally, right? Like if you tell me you're broke, but you offer me $1 to do something, I'm more likely to do it because I know that means you care, right? Like you're committing your limited resources to getting something done. And in the very same way, I think when we send that signal out, hey, this is the funding we have, and here's how we're going to use it. Come on in if you want to. I'm excited to see what that does to dynamics of how people jump in and contribute. And so now we've started this conversation, like what could we collaborate on? A little bit of thinking ahead to maybe a future iteration of the course. Nick, I really like your ideas. And Newman, when it comes to collaboration, it's music to my ears to hear you say that right now you'd be excited to guide people through that Nick's onboarding process, right? Because just on my end, I'm a little bit burnt out by that right now. I need a break from it, right? I'll be excited to come back around to it eventually, right? But this is a normal thing for teachers. You teach 9th grade algebra for 5 straight years. You got to teach trig for a year just to get it out of your system, you know, and same thing, we can support each other. And when I say seasons, I'm not saying like the 4 seasons of every annual, you know, every year. I'm a real believer in seasons of life. Like I really believe that we have chapters where we're a different person than we might be in the next chapter. I think that's a beautiful thing. So just a season could mean, it could mean an afternoon, or it could mean 5 years. You know, that's, I'm thinking just flexibly in that terminology. Harsha, what do you think?
I just had one more request for the collaboration part. What would personally help me a lot is visualizing all these ideas that we speak about. We build mental models, but if there's a third person that can come in and see what our mental models are, I think it would help a lot, because there is Cardano CLI, there is Golang, there is Aiken, all of these. How do they fit into the development process? If we can visualize that, I feel like as someone that has never coded, I would understand how to go about things.
This is an extremely text-heavy course right now. It's not good enough for visual learners. Look at all this. You will learn with examples. Here's a wall of text. right? Right. So yeah, visuals in this course, that's a skill set, man. It would be fun. Let's add that to a list of things, yeah, that we could collaborate on. So yeah, we have maybe 15 minutes left. What else do folks want to collaborate on? There's been a few ideas that have come up. I seeded this with a couple of things, but keep riffing. Was somebody's hand just up?
That was mine.
Hey.
Yeah, an idea. I know that I've been asking if we possibly could do some kind of module around the bonfire dot. And I know this is the topic that we've been kind of like having in our back in our heads, but we never really got deep into this. And so what I wanted to ask is, what do you guys think about me showing people how I built the bonfire, and by doing so, giving people the chance to learn and maybe contribute to new features that I would like to implement maybe in the future. You know, this will give people the real world practice and the basically the chance to delve into the Cardano development.
Yeah, what you just said is the Andamio model, right? Let us show you something, what exists so far and how it works, so that if you want to, you can use it, but so that also some of you can contribute to it. And I think this is a new economics of learning, and what has for a while been called human resources. I don't love that term. But right, this idea that if you provide education for free, do you find collaborators? And I think we are going to prove that together. And this can replace hierarchical pipelines. You want to learn something? Come on in. I'd like to help you see how this thing works. Once you know, you're free to go. You got what you need, go. Right? And somebody met earlier on this call, right? We talked about like some people are here just because they're trying to land a job. A lot of people have passed through Plutus PBL for the time they needed to learn what they needed to go get a job somewhere. That's great when that happens, right? And sometimes people stick around and they start contributing back to the thing. And I think there's enough there that we can flesh out this model.
That's great. I didn't even know that Andamio was such a project. That's great.
We've gone deep into it, man. Yeah, I'm much more prepared to help with Bonfire than a couple of years ago because of what we've been doing with Andamio too. That could be a really cool use case, because not every PBL course needs to look like this. This one has a dozen modules, and every one of these modules has a bunch of different lessons in it. But maybe a course just needs to be one module. 2 lessons. Hey, here's a thing. Here's how it works. Those are the 2 lessons. Right? Here's how to contribute. You can jump in.
Yeah. All right. I will be thinking about this while finishing the bonfire.
All systems go. Hey, the first thing to always think about is learning targets. So if you are thinking about going that direction, think about what learning targets, are prerequisite. What do people need to know before they can even start to learn Bonfire, right? And then what are some of the things that they will learn by going through a couple of lessons that we could create about that?
Was it?
Sebastian, what do you think?
Think maybe Kimba Labs can be, from the beginning, can be an incubator, offering the people the option to start building things from the beginning. Because when we are talking about education, we present the idea of education as you have to first gain some knowledge through some modules and some lessons, and after that maybe you can get the expertise of the ability, the skills to build some things. Maybe that principle should be from the beginning. Hey, come here and start building things. At the end of the process, we have that's general idea, but at the end of the process, you will have some kind of major event when all the projects and all the products and services built by the students will be present in a major event. But in the intermean of the process, they can start building little and small things. They can get they can get some kind of support from experts, like for example Piotr, when some student is engaging in building a product similar to Bonfire, for example, and we can use the Bonfire DApp to charge some kind of exchange, some kind of value, like Bonfire proposes. But in general terms, I think one of the characteristics of the education is you must start first acquiring some knowledge, some blocks of knowledge from others, and then you can start to build some things. Maybe you, without of knowing of having some kind of specific knowledge about programming or about technology, etc., you can start from the beginning without the requirement of the knowledge. Just simply start. We can give you some kind of bullet points for start building little things, and these little things can evolve more ambitious things. And we are here as Gimba Labs. We are there trying to take some grants from the SPO, some things that we can do with other actors, and start to fund, inject some funds to this kind of projects. I don't know. Maybe in general, the idea is the education can be more dynamic and more ambitious. I don't know.
Yeah, if I just start to organize these notes a little bit, right? Like there's some stuff that could fall under the umbrella of keeping the status quo, improving upon just what's already there for Plutus PBL into a 2024 iteration. And then there's projects, right? More projects. I would like to see that this idea of dynamism and some ambition, building things big or small, right? New explorations, new modules, and maybe even, for example.
Because the question is how you can incentivize people to doing things from the beginning.
Right. And it's hard. This is a tough balance, because I agree that the goal is do something, make something as soon as possible. And there's a lot of overhead to that. If you're especially, well, if you're a brand new developer, there's always overhead, right? But then even for Cardano development, getting into that, I want to think about, yeah, how early can we get somebody doing something without the background knowledge?
All right, here's something, the background knowledge. I mean, there's just so many basic courses and materials, books. And James, you were talking about like Golang, and I think it would be cool because what we have, like our goal, and I think maybe it was Piotr that was saying that the goal is to contribute to these projects. And so if what the barrier to that goal is background knowledge, like what Pabon is talking about, then maybe we as a crew, now as a unit, as together, like something that is supported and organized and communicated here in Gimbal Labs, and then we go and take other courses, or learn, and find the materials, but we're kind of a subset and we do it together, because we have an established sort of sharing thing. And it could, this is similar to what Harsha and I did with the CS50. We, as a crew, as a unit, are working together and continuing to do that value exchange and build up, a quality of trust and relationship. And wouldn't that be cool if we expanded that and that became a part of sort of the DNA of Gimbal Labs, like that that we're a learning organization that is, our goal is to contribute to these projects. I love the idea. Yeah. I feel like that's the value for me of Gimbal Labs, and then taking it on the road, so to speak, or expanding it out and really sort of, working that value is really, would be something that I would love to be involved in, Like if if he's like, oh, let's learn these indexers, I found a great course on indexing. It's a 3-hour course. I'm going to do it on Saturdays. Just drop in and we'll share, or we'll kind of, reflect our experiences. Like that in my mind would be a real win for us as Gimbal Labs, and as just, as just a community, and for me personally.
I agree. On a personal level, nothing would make me happier than saying, hey, let's build something and learn something new that we don't know yet. For example, do this thing together.
Yeah.
Do a quick review of what learning resources are out there, use them, right? But then apply our methods and collaboration to A, building something, and then B, turning that process of building that thing into a student-facing project.
Exactly.
Okay.
And here's the value. One last little thing. Here's the value in that. Like if I go to a community, like if I go to a lesson, if I show up at CS50 and there it's Harvard, and you're like, I don't know what the hell's going on, or I don't want to ask questions. If I have a buddy there with me that I can be, he knows that I'm not an idiot. He knows that, that there's that value is a real support. And we can extend that to others as we all learn and go through, like this stuff changes all the time. We have to become better at learning. And I think, the learning circle, the learning cohort, there's, especially when it comes to like a treasury or the value exchange, the contribution, all this sort of fits in. We definitely have to strength train our learning muscles. We have to strength train our learning muscles,
I agree. So doing that, so that to me as a North Star, the place to get to, like if in 2024 we got to the point where we just kick-started this cyclical process of always having a crew to keep learning new things with, to me, that would be like the highest achievement. And the reason I say that is because like that's just what I want. Like I want to be part of that community where that's just happening and there's people who you can trust to show up and do that kind of thing together. Now, here's a wrinkle. That part's fun. If that's what we were doing, I'd be jumping out of bed every morning, so excited to do the next thing. The problem is there's this other thing that's maybe a little less sexy and fun, maintaining the onboarding resources. And this is a hard one. I know because I've done it. I have tried to revise the content. It's not sexy work and it doesn't make me jump out of bed, but I know it needs to be done, so I do it. Paban's been doing it, right? The number of commits he makes to the Plutus PBL course just to keep it up to date, to change the punctuation, like all that thankless stuff, getting it done. And so maybe a question, this is not something we're going to resolve because we're at about time right now, but a question for all of us to take with us: what would it take to kind of create that infrastructure where the less fun stuff gets done in a distributed way so that the really fun stuff can really thrive? And the answer might be that we don't have to worry about the onboarding part, but I doubt that. I'm willing to discover that that's the answer. But it seems that we will always want probably to have some kind of approach to onboarding. And how can we make sure that stays? What needs to be true for that to stay as reliable as it can be and maximize the time for this ongoing, ever-changing, emergent piece? I'd like to figure that out with this crew. Figure that out.
Yeah, that's right.
By onboarding, do you mean onboarding to the course or onboarding to actually building stuff?
The latter, I think, is the most important. Getting people to the point of actually building stuff, right? That's what this course is designed to do. But we already know it's out of date, right? So that hence the need for revision and maintenance. But yeah, I don't think the PBL like core course, let's call it the 100 and 200 level modules, I would like to not see that course as an end in itself, but to see that as, the only reason that exists, the 100 and 200 levels, is so that we can get people into this work that excites us. And maybe we're not far off. I don't know. And so maybe the first step is also just stepping back and taking a look like, okay, like these modules right here, what's extraneous and could just be removed? What's out of date and needs to be revised? And is there anything here that we should lean into a little bit more, right? But maybe what I'm describing, like that maintenance work, maybe it's not as much work as I think. And if we all can take a little bit of it and just make sure this continues to exist, again, the goal of that is so that we can spend as much time as possible here. And so that people who want to be part of these things, because it's contagious. Once you have an energized group of people collaborating on
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
so but once somebody has that drive to participate, this goes back to the commons conversation, right? Like there needs to be, we can't just say, oh, you don't know that, you're not welcome here. Right? It's, oh, hey, we want you here, but there's a couple things you got to know, and we're doing our very best to help you know those things. Here, jump in.
Right.
Here's
Right
the
there.
structure. We want to get you there. Why does this exist? Because we want to get you into this work that's really captivating to all of us.
But in the same way, for example, when you show the previous image of the PBL, you can see, for example, modules 100 and 200 as stages that you as a student have to stay for a while. Meanwhile, you go to the 300 level. The problem with education currently is it's only education, it's only courses, it's no sexy. The idea of education is not sexy currently, because when you go to in this ecosystem, when you go to the several organizations that are providing courses, they provide that service in the same way, without the perspective of being part of building things. But if in other scenario you present that idea not as a course, but as incubation, I'm insisting in this session, in this idea, an incubation, be part of an incubator without any requirement. The only requirement is you have to go to, you have to pass for these 100 and 200 modules, and imagine this 300 module as a big hall, a big space full of desks and machines and instruments, where if you go to the 100 and 200, in 300 you have the right to one of those desks and start to build things, man. And we, at the end of a month, for example, at the end of the month, we are going to do an event where you are showing your project and you can inject funds in your idea. So in that kind of setting, you have a future, you have a visual of a future. Okay, if I enter from the 100 module door, I can see far away a possible future for me. And that's the image that currently the educators or the institutions that educate kids, people in general, have missed in the process.
It's true. Kids know it. Kids ask their teachers, when am I going to use this?
Yeah, they do.
But and Seb, I love that vision. And that's like, speaking of Harsha's call to visualize ideas, let's draw a picture of what you just said, and let's roadmap it. Let's
Because
build it.
collaboration and contribution is a party. It's a party. It's a rough party. You start this journey in this case in a 100 module alone, without nothing, nobody. But in the great whole that is the 300 module, you have the option to know your partner.
Somewhere in here, you
know,
get slipped a little pill. You know.
but you start alone.
No.
No, not that. Okay, sorry.
But you start completely alone as a student.
Yeah, maybe if you have like a very gradual transition, like affiliates, like maybe Demu Pro is affiliated with this with Gimbal Labs or Andamio, and then they can just mark like you need 103 and 204.
Bingo.
Then you can go here. Like, it's like, oh, if I know this, I can work, and there's positions there. You can say, oh, we just need these tasks done, just like Andamio flows straight into projects.
Bingo. And so this is where this is the most exciting part. These next 14 months, I'm saying 14, right? Like from now until the end of 2024. In the background of everything else we're talking about here, we now have the tech to do, Martin, what you just said, for it to all be on-chain validation. Hey, we need a contributor who knows these things. What things? Oh, these learning targets. Okay, some of those learning targets are taught by this course over here and some over there. Okay, any learner who's got those credentials from course A and course B can mint a contributor token to contribute to our organization, right? Whatever we set the rules at, it's just validation rules, okay? And now you're a contributor who can make claims on this DEMU treasury or whatever the organization is, okay? We've got the underlying tech. What we don't have is the storytelling and, you know, the distributed imaginative capacity to start building those pathways like the one you just described. And but that starts right now, right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
would be nice if, like, a token, if you maybe have a video of somebody's journey, like you could look back at, oh, he started there, and then he's now the top developer here,
Oh,
and
man.
see what happens.
The data viz that Andamio is going to enable is going to be really exciting, right? And it's not too interesting at first if you just have one course, right? Okay, people are moving to that course. But once you start to see people moving between courses and then into opportunities like you're describing, like how cool would that be to see your own journey? Now this goes back to like RPG, right? How many magic points do I have, right? How many health points do I have? What tools have I picked up along the way? Look at this journey I've been on and all these places I've contributed.
Sounds cool.
We get to do that. And so I hope that fits that exploration. If we're thinking about getting here, it feels like we have pretty good broad alignment, right? There's details to figure out, but like we have pretty good alignment from this conversation that we all want to get somewhere like this, doing projects, right? Bringing our existing projects to the table, bringing our existing projects to the table and maybe inviting other people to contribute, bringing things that we want to know about to the group and saying, hey, anybody want to learn this together, and so on. Does this provide a context now for starting to build, Martin, like you're saying, these kind of learner journeys? I hope that we can start to kind of flesh out what that would mean by testing those processes on ourselves.
Maybe one thing that we can add to this is like market research. Let's take few people that can take that could be students, possible students, and ask them, what would you like the outcome to be? Where would you like to end up after the course?
We had people make a commitment to a little Git repo with that information, but we never really returned to it and used that. That could actually be the source of a like an off-chain indexer as well. Speaking of little microservices. But yeah, sky's the limit. The list of things we might do, it's going to stay pretty long. We're not going to get bored. But it's just a matter of figuring out, hey, are there places where people can agree, okay, next we're going to do this? So we didn't today answer the question of what goes on the calendar but I think that's fine. I think we made some progress thinking about what we might do. I hope that everybody, and if you're watching this later, if you stop by, please drop by anytime. We meet on Wednesdays and Thursdays, 1430 to 1600 UTC. But yeah, over the next meeting or two, maybe we can start to flesh out this calendar and just think about some adventures we want to go on. And maybe even we could even ignore, you know, the maintenance stuff for a little while and just do some play, do some exploring. But just as long as we keep in mind that at some point we, you know, we'll need to set a date. When should Plutus PBL 2024 be released? January, March, June, right? We can decide, and then we can plan backwards from there accordingly.
Nice.
Piotr, what do you think?
That's last thing. Sorry, guys.
Yes.
Just to go back to what you were saying, James, about the revision of the existing content. I think it's good to keep in mind that not everything that we like or you guys have made in the past will be in the future iterations. So I think it would be beneficial to sit and review the content and see where is it going, what we need from it, what we don't need. Yeah.
You know, that's actually a really good argument for starting from a place of exploration and play, because it might help us clarify what's actually essential in the course.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We start, maybe we should make a commitment to like not worrying about this until December or something. Give ourselves a couple weeks, you know, just to play. And then once we say, all right, well, now that we're kind of looking at the things we really want to be doing, if the goal was to invite other people to contribute as well, what of the existing course is necessary? And what can we drop? There's nothing better than deleting a module. Oh, we don't need that one anymore. One less thing to worry about. Right? And if we can pare that down, yeah, maybe even we don't even start the conversation about the new course until January. And we just use this time to play with that in mind. All right. We don't have to decide yet. We'll decide in the next few weeks. Thanks. This is really fun. I appreciate the time to get into this. And Martin, I mean, it's just so exciting. I love that this was the first thing you brought up, because like in my mind, when I think about where I want to get to with Plutus PBL, this is the place I've always been thinking about. I want to get to the point where we have a group of people learning about indexers together. And so the fact that you arrived there is really exciting to me.
It's there's some weak spots there which really needs some attention.
+1. Yep. Yeah, that's good. Newman, sorry. Were you just going to jump in?
Piotr. No?
Sorry. No, sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Got your hand up there.
Cool.
Good times.
We've got these kind of loose notes from today. I'm just going to publish this and drop the link into Discord in case you want to follow up on any of this. If we need to get a shared Notion or other spot going, we can talk about that in the weeks to come as well.
Dig it.
Thanks, y'all. This was fun. Appreciate you jumping in. All right. See you soon.